Howdy everybody, we're back with some more RPG horror stories. Let's jump into our first story. Today's first story is going to be from user Plastic Stars and is titled Paladin Upstages Bard Nearly Ruins Campaign. TLDR, the Paladin player took over a negotiation that the Bard was supposed to handle and completely fumbled it. Long version. There are 4 players. The 2 are relevant to the story of the Dragonborn Rogue and the Elf Paladin. They were in a vampire kingdom trying to get access to the sealed castle. In order to do so, they need to meet with the 2 dukes of the kingdom to get permission in order to be allowed into the barrier by the mage who set it up. A little convoluted, but I'm here for it. The party split in order to move quicker. Group B went to one duke and Group A went to one duke, Group B to the other. This formatting is not great. Before the party split up, it was agreed the Bard was assigned to handle negotiations because the group thought the Paladin would mess it up. I was happy about this as the Bard player hadn't gotten to do much recently and eagerly accepted this plan. Normally, I'm not one to split the party too much just because if you do get into combat, it gets a little dicey. A D&D 5e has a tendency to be balanced for parties of at least 4. So it can get a little fucky-wucky, and also when you split the party and one half's in combat and the other half is not, the one that's not in combat is often bored out of their fucking minds because combat can take like an hour. So they split the party and I scheduled the groups on different days to handle their negotiations without any metagaming or interference from players whose characters weren't there. The Paladin had commissioned a blacksmith to make a gift for the Duke, and the Bard set up a meeting with the Duke's advisor. This was due to the fact that they weren't allowed to meet the Duke unless they convinced the advisor their meeting was worth the Duke's time. This makes sense. It's kind of cool that they scheduled mini sessions to really get the RP for the negotiations down and also to maybe stop metagaming. I also like that in-game and in lore, the party decided to commission a gift. Really cool that they're getting involved in the world in a different way to be like, hey, let's go to a blacksmith, let's commission a gift. So we can like try to get in with this, Duke. So good RP there. Now, we have the meeting with the advisor. I set the scene making it clear who they were meeting, and before the Bard, who was supposed to handle negotiations as everyone agreed, could say a word, the Paladin speaks up, I walk forward and I greet the Duke, and goes off on this I am the MC let us through tangent. Both the Bard and I were shocked. Not only was he not paying a lick of attention to who they were speaking to, he acted intending to steal the Bard's one moment to shine this entire arc. The Bard just left the VC done with everything as the Paladin had already been pushing their buttons the whole session, and this broke them. Holy crap, the DM should step in and correct the Paladin here, either in-game or outside of game. That this isn't the Duke, but the advisor. Sometimes players miss a beat and think they're talking to someone else. So while that happens, if they start going on a tangent and go, hey, I'm going to stop you right there, bud, you're actually talking to the advisor, not the Duke. Also, this is what the plan was. Though it does kind of sound like there was some hostility here. If the Paladin has been poking the Bard's buttons and bullying them, which is what it sounds more like, and less like, kind of teasing them and having fun, perhaps remind them above table that the party agreed to have the Bard do the negotiations, not them, the Paladin, and that they need to take a back seat here. Sometimes you kind of have to lay the law down with players. Some players really like to be in the spotlight. I, the DM, tore the Paladin a new one, telling him that this was the advisor. This was supposed to be the Bard's time to shine and demanding to know why they did what they did. The Paladin player says, I wanted to show the players in the other group I could handle the negotiations. Me. So you did this to prove yourself to the 2 people who are not even here. How does this prove anything? All you did was prove their damn point. Now I got to figure out how that holier-than-thou rant you just went on is supposed to convince anyone. For those wondering why the Bard didn't do things, the players stated that the Paladin's actions ruined the whole thing and they couldn't bring themselves to get into the scene. I will try to answer any questions and I apologize if this is messy. This is my first time posting. It sounds like a conversation needs to happen here. A conversation about stealing spotlight from other players. That all players need to take turns, and if the party agrees to something, they should be sticking to it. I don't know the dynamic here. I'm not sure if the Bard player is just shy or easily rattled, but I would hope that a fuck up from the Paladin wouldn't just make them leave the session. But if the Paladin is being aggressive, a piece of shit, bullying them, purposely making things difficult, I can understand the Bard just being done with the session. Personally, I here as a DM wouldn't allow this Paladin's poor attempt at negotiations through. I'm not going to reward them for being a fucking dick. Make sure that conversation about manners happens and make sure that the party needs to complete something difficult, like for the advisor, to even allow them to meet the Duke instead here. I'm not saying like instead of having negotiations, but just like in game, have it so like that fails. The advisor tells them to fuck off. So then they have to go back to the party and go, hey, shit failed. The paladin was a complete fucking idiot and caused an implosion, caused a political crisis, if you will. The only way now for them to go forward is to go to the advisor and go, hey, listen, the paladin's an idiot, but he means well. We want to get in. And the advisor can go, cool. You guys can go on this hard as shit quest to then show that you are useful and worth the Duke's time. This will give the party some time together and allow them to in-game rip the paladin a new one. And then also hopefully down the line, once they complete that quest, they can get in to see the Duke. And now with the whole party together, the bard has a chance to shine because the others can help police the paladin here. That being said, a conversation needs to happen with the paladin here. They cannot be acting this way. They're clearly being aggressive and rude to the bard. If the bard is at a point where they just fucking leave the voice call permanently or for a long period of time. Okay, before our next story, check me out on twitch.tv/VanDavy. I stream throughout the week. Would love to hang out with you. Links are in the description. Next story, though. Our next story is from user Remarkable Toe 164 and is titled My D&D game of 2+ years died to sexual assault and a divorce. Trigger warning, sexual assault. I really hope I tagged and marked this post right. If not, I'm very sorry. So I was DMing a D&D 5e homebrew game. The setting was homebrew and there was a few homebrew items in the game, but I'd say it's mostly standard D&D. My party consisted of my husband Lee, who's a male 32. It says TM 32. I assume they mean male. Ooh, maybe they mean trans male. Ooh, that I didn't consider. I'm going to assume it's not a typo. TM 32, my coworker Nick, male 24, another coworker Keith, male 35, and his husband James, male 31. The game used the 7 Deadly Sins as a theme and as the main villains. It was a lot of fun. Gonna hop in here. I'm down for the 7 Deadly Sins vibes. I'm personally not referring to the anime, though that's a really cool theme too. But I like the whole utilizing 7 Deadly Sins to make bosses or themes around the campaign. Cool, classic, love it. The issues came initially with James. James and Keith have been married for some time, but they were very open about their sexuality at the table, which I have no issue with personally, but Nick is asexual and made it clear to me that topics of a sexual nature make them uncomfortable. So I had to regularly staunch the flow of sexual conversation. Eventually found out that James enjoyed, quote, watching Nick squirm, which I didn't like, but it seemed just like talk. So we have a situation where a player does not enjoy above table sexual talk. Perhaps we have a conversation that sexual talk needs to not occur at this table because making Nick squirm may be funny to some, but I guarantee you that Nick themselves feels insanely comfortable and it makes the game much less fun for them. The goal overall should be to have everybody at the table feel comfortable, safe, and open to playing the game. I couldn't perfectly stop James as I was also juggling issues with him from my own perspective. I could do no right by James. No matter what I did, I had personally wronged him after every session. My husband was close friends with Keith and James, and they would often watch my cats when we were out of town. James would often take this opportunity to look through my DM notes and try to predict what was coming to better prepare himself. I started to leave things out that were red herrings for my own amusement and cause fuck that. All right, this is not a D&D thing. That's just wrong on a number of levels there. Don't fucking go through people's shit. James sounds like they're being a bit aggressive to the DM here, outside of the going through their shit when they're out of town thing. Also, if you're going to go through your DM's notes, that person's also probably going to go through more than that. So you might want to be a little bit more concerned that they're not just going through DM notes. But if someone constantly sees themselves as wronged, they're going to bring the entire table down. A conversation directly about what James has as an issue or issues could really help clear some stuff up. Is it because they got told no? Well, the DM makes the rules. Is it because the DM picks on them or they think the DM picks on them? Perhaps it's a matter of perspective. If you are making your PC do dumb shit, like being a murder hobo, then yes, there may be consequences. Yes, you may see this as the DM picking on you, but in that instance, you are fucking dumb. As matters got worse there, my husband Lee and I split up and began divorce proceedings, which naturally made playing with him vastly more challenging, but I had worked on this game for years and I wanted to see it through, especially since he had requested an NPC character who was a quote simp for him to roleplay with, and doing that with your ex is bullshit. I'm going to be honest, if I was breaking up with somebody or divorcing them, I might just stop that game that I'm in with them. It'd be hard to kind of keep things civil. And do you really want to play an NPC that simps for the person you're having issues with and are actively breaking things off with? Everything came to a head at our last session. I had worked extra hard on an extensive dungeon map that I could reveal piece by piece, because at the last dungeon they could see the full map of, James decided just to run to the rooms that looked like they would have treasure in them, regardless of the fact that they were in a prison trying to free someone. To prevent metagaming, I had all the rooms that they hadn't entered yet blacked out, and I would not reveal them until they had entered. So James charged through the dungeon, passing stealth checks to get past NPCs just to reveal the map to find treasure. Treasure was his thing. He became very irritable when I told him at a fork in the road that he had to pick a path and I wouldn't reveal both for him. Okay, James is one of those players. They're probably mad that they don't get to metagame. I would really consider ending this table, especially if you're at the point where you're divorcing your husband and they're still playing in it, and just try to find new players with Nick, because I don't see this ending well. James and Keith are going to side with your ex-husband on things because they're more friends with them. So you're already dealing with a table where 3/4 of your players are quite possibly going to be hostile and a pain in the ass for you. Regarding the metagaming, if needed, you need to have a conversation with your players and put your foot down. Sometimes you just got to nip that shit in the bud. For example, player comes to you and says, well, I want to, let's say, light the troll on fire, because they may be meta and they know that a troll monster block standard has a vulnerability to fire. It stops their regeneration. A lot of fantasy. Cool. Does your character know this? Because if not, your character can't do that. You could roll a history check. You could try to roll a nature check maybe, or something like that. Like that would then allow your PC in universe to come up with that reasoning. And sometimes you need to guide the players to that. But don't be afraid to have that conversation. Just be like, hey guys, if you metagame, you are actively ruining the game for yourselves and all of the other players, so try not to do it. And if you think somebody's metagaming, politely call them out on it. Don't be like, hey, you're metagaming, you dick. Just be like, hey, would your character know that? Or, hey, your character's not really sure what's ahead. We'll get there. And just kind of like pump the brakes with them. Okay, so the post added some text here. It was a really weird text block. I don't know if this was attached later on or an amendment. I'm not really sure. But the added text goes as such. Nick stepped away for a moment and James commented that he took Nick's asexuality as a, quote, challenge. And when I questioned that, Keith's response was, quote, well, he's asking for it, which I found incredibly fucked up, and it is. The session ended and everyone went their own ways, including my ex-husband as he had moved out by this point. The next day at work, Keith approached me to explain to me why James was upset, as was our tradition after each session. I cut off Keith and told him that this time, these were the reasons that I was upset with James, and that this time, I did nothing wrong and it was up to James to speak to me himself and that I was done. I'm going to say here, good on DM for telling Keith that James needs to speak up. This back and forth has to be really tiring for both Keith and the DM here. Just going to say this. If you, as a player, have issues, you, as a player, should go talk to your DM. Do not play telephone. That is how things get misconstrued and people get pissed. Also, I'm going to assume most of the people that play TTRPGs are generally adults or closing in on being adult. And if you are, you need to grow up and be an adult and have conversations with people. It sucks, but you got to do it. So do it. Okay, as for James taking Nick's asexuality as a, quote, challenge, that's insanely fucked up. You should be aiming to make everybody comfortable at the table. I still can't see why OP would want to continue this game with these people. James sounds like a toxic piece of shit, both to him as the DM and Nick as a player. This isn't even considering the fact that OP here is divorcing their husband Lee at this point, and they're still playing a game together. This game just sounds like a train wreck of a nightmare. I would not be in it. My ex in my relationship has dissolved entirely as he dragged his feet for years on his half of the divorce paperwork. Nick and I remain friends and support each other's games that we aren't in due to scheduling conflicts, but otherwise, I no longer talk to anybody from this table. TLDR, 2 players don't care what asexual means, and my ex-husband is a twat. Hey, I'm just going to say, glad OP's no longer DMing this table. This had to be a stressful table to DM. I hope he does get to continue playing with Nick. Also, I hope OP finds happiness and better tables as well. I do wish them the best. Our last story is from user Orgalop and is titled DM Railroads Our Game into TPK and then blames the players. So I've been playing D&D for about a year and a half. I've always played with the same group of 6. I know a lot of players. Anyway, we had been playing a campaign ran by our friend for a while and just recently finished. We usually run on Thursdays at my house and we had been given a green light to play that week. but didn't know what to run. When one of our players, who ended up DMing, decides to tell us he has a campaign ready, we make characters with relatively normal backstories and show up on that Thursday. The players were an artificer, a warlock, a paladin, a rogue, and me, a barbarian. A nice little party. So, things start odd. We wake up in a tavern. How creative. All but the artificer are in their rooms, with him at the bar. Before we can say anything, the DM tells us that we are drawn to a presence downstairs. The artificer. We all decide to huddle around him when a dragonborn walks up to him and tells him to follow him. We all don't choose to do anything except the artificer. He chooses to talk with the dragonborn and gather information. When Paladin's trying to speak, DM tells him to shut up because artificer is speaking. DM tells us the dragonborn says we are in a desert. I try to crack in a joke about hearing dessert instead of desert. Incredibly funny, I know. When I am immediately shot down and told, your character can't speak because Artificer is speaking. After Artificer speaking to the Dragonborn, we are all, quote, magically inclined to follow him. Keep in mind, we still haven't gotten to do a sliver of role-playing. Okay, this DM's being a bit harsh. It's okay to mellow your players, but do be polite. Say, hey, let's let the artificer finish up here before you can interject, or something like that. I can understand making one PC perhaps the focus of the initial scene, but you need to make sure to give all of your PCs time to be introduced and all of your PCs time to actively interact with the world and roleplay. I don't know if this is a newer DM or what, but they are definitely being a tad aggressive here. We all follow him and eventually come to an old mine. The DM PC holds out his magic hand and blasts the boards of the mine entrance, because of course he can. DM PC, is that the Dragonborn? Again, all but Artificer get to speak. Artificer catches on and asks why we can't roleplay. DM says, it's not our turn, and begins to yap again about how the Artificer's magic items are drawing us adventurers in. After being forced down the cave, we are met with 3 bats. Oh wait. No, we aren't, because even though me and the Warlock have dark vision for 120 feet, we still can't make out our enemies. So, after an hour-long combat, because these bats just kept regenerating, our Warlock is nearly dead, I've lost a hand axe, our Rogue is at 6 hit points, and the Paladin has no smites left. And an obviously unharmed Artificer, we are once again pulled onto a mine cart track. Apparently there are skeletons, so I grab a skull, use it as a puppet. Again, incredibly funny humor. Okay, it sounds like maybe the Dragonborn's the DMPC here. Perhaps I'm like misreading this. Also, does the DM like Artificer, or are they just playing favorites? Like, it's a bit weird that everybody but the Artificer is being railroaded, because normally when you railroad, everybody's getting railroaded, not just 5-6 of the party. After we all go onto the precarious track heading over lava, the DMPC says he doesn't want to die here and blows up the track, making Rogue and Paladin fall through the air towards the lava. They made no rolls, by the way, just fell and then died. Great. I jumped down with rope attached and grabbed Rogue with a natural 20. He still fell and died. No saves, no death saving throws, just death. Same for the Paladin. I pulled myself up to Artificer and jumped at the NPC. I rolled a 17 and he didn't roll, caught my Warhammer and pulled me into the ground. The Artificer casts Firebolt. The DM tells him to roll Arcana to cast Firebolt. He gets a 15 and the DMPC catches the bolt. Again, no check, and throws it at me. I'm at 27 HP and it insta-kills? Guess what? No roll. Warlock runs away and DMPC does speech again, a pristine... Okay. No roll. Warlock runs away and DMPC does speech again, a pristine Artificer. I assume that means speaks again. After my death, the Warlock runs away. Fair enough. Our Artificer jumps over and uses jump to get over to DMPC, is told to roll an Arcana, gets a 21 with advantage. DM describes how he flies into the air and breaks his neck on the roof and dies. What the fuck? Cut to Warlock, who is running and gets mauled to death by metal-eating slimes. He's a Warforged, apparently. TPK with not a single dice roll from the DM. Then he pulls the quote, "You all wake up from your dream," and the session ends. We are playing again next Thursday, and I'm going to die. As DM left, he says if he had a choice It would only bring back me and Artificer because we role-played. Reminder, he shut everyone down before they could speak. Okay, I am for the it's just a dream angle, but you gotta make it quick, and you gotta leave some clues that they're in a dream or something like that. Otherwise, it feels like a cop-out. You also need to let your other PCs role-play. You cannot stop people from role-playing and then fault them for not trying to role-play more. Personally, I would try to run far away from this table, or if you can't run far away because this is a group of people you play consistently with on a regular basis, perhaps note, hey, this campaign's not for me. Perhaps they'll get other people to speak up, and then maybe perhaps the original DM who had that campaign that apparently worked out great can set up a new campaign instead of this other person, because this just ain't working, Jack. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. That's going to be it for today. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. Also catch me on Twitch. Please let me know what your thoughts are or were on any of these stories, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye, everybody.